Sit! Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
He's Garret Price.
How's it going?
And we are doing the opposite of what we did yesterday, and we're talking sells. You know, like what everybody loves in Dynasty.
Sells. Oh, doesn't work out that
dude.
great.
24 hours late.
Yep. Yeah.
You did your best.
I mean, I don't know either. Right?
Hello.
Wow. Way to ruin the show so quickly.
Wow.
We're not a minute in. The show's already ruined.
Yep.
It's over. Thanks for your
I
participation.
knew it was going to be that kind of party.
Guy misses 2 weeks. He's like, dude, how do I miss another 2 weeks? Got it all planned out.
What everyone doesn't know is I was on administrative leave. And I'm back.
For now. That's how it goes. So sells at tight end. It's an interesting position group to say sell, because it's when you're looking at value, like where's the value once you get to like tight end 7, right? Tight end 7 to 14. We all talk consistently like how the points per game base. It's so crowded within like every other position group. Matter of fact, like there's a drastic difference between tight end, like wide receiver 6 and wide receiver 15 sometimes. So with tight ends, when you want to sell guys, it's going to be guys that are probably pretty close to that range. So you have to like, okay, how do I find what somebody else is looking for? And usually that's in season, right? When the right tight ends and the right offense. So you mentioned last show, like the Gary Barnidge player that comes out of nowhere, right?
Right.
These players that hold value.
The Austin Hooper year.
Austin Hooper year in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Where the value kind of just springs on you. And I used Austin Hooper that year to get like a crazy return.
Remember the Robert Tonyan year too?
Oh,
Yes. Yeah. Baby Gronk.
Yeah.
Baby Gronk. So
He was so tiny. He was like a very small baby. Very small baby Gronk. He never grew up to be the real one.
Why is it always a mini version of a player, little version of a player? Why is it never like a mega version of a player?
Right.
Mega Gronk. Like now I'm scared.
Wow.
now you're talking
Baby Gronk, I'm like,
mythical creatures. Come on. I mean, this is real life. This is Game of Thrones.
This is a Mega Gronk.
This is NFL. Mega Gronk.
They evolve.
Sounds dangerous.
You guys ever seen the picture of the mountain next to his brothers?
Yeah. They're mountains.
It makes him look like an average human being.
Insane, right?
Yeah.
He is truly baby Gronk.
It just
compared to
really
his
goes to show you
giant
life's
brothers.
about
Mega
perspective.
Yeah.
Anyways, sells.
Go ahead. Lay some more wisdom
Did
on
Rich
us,
just
sir.
become an inspirational poster there?
Yeah, obviously.
So anyways,
Say it.
Hang in there.
when you had those players on that frog around the stork's throat, never give
I was
up.
talking about the kitten.
I was talking about the
Oh,
kid.
man.
That's
from
it.
the tree.
Hey, same poster. Same. What was it? Scholastics.
I don't remember.
Yeah, never give up. So selling those kind of players that are in the same range, like you're more like interchanging commodities, right? And then the top guys, it's kind of hard to ever say sell because it's such a small group of players. It's literally the haves and the have-nots.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if you can have those top 3, like the George Kittles and the guys we mentioned last episode, like that's a real great edge in fantasy football, right? Like, 'cause there's only 25% of the league most likely to have those guys. So if you have 2 of them, like look out. So you don't want to get rid of those guys. But that's where I land. Myself, I've kind of mentioned this a couple times over the last, I think, couple months. Sam LaPorta of the Lions. He's a 24-year tight end, and he exploded on the scene as a rookie in 2023 and finished as tight end 1. And he had 86 catches, 889 yards. It was the big touchdowns that really helped get him there, which we mentioned before. And then we saw 2024, he kind of pulled back a little bit, right? Became tight end 6. Only 66 catches, 740 yards, and now only 6 touchdowns. So with Sam LaPorta, he's still coming off ADP-wise as tight end 3 overall in our current ADP. And I think a big point of seeing Sam LaPorta, obviously the touchdown regression is a clear excuse there, but also the emergence of Jameson Williams, right? Like them taking the top off. And what do they do this year in the 3rd round? They take Isaac TeSlaa, somebody who take the top off just maybe in case the Jameson Williams
Stuff
doesn't
doesn't
pan
work
out.
out.
So taking him in the 3rd round kind of tells me, even after Ben Johnson, this is a team that still wants to be able to push the full ball downfield. And obviously when you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, you add them to the equation. I think, this to me comes just of not a player I don't like, and I still do not think is a very good asset.
Right.
It's just where he finished last year, where he already fell down to tight end 6 overall in that range. That's still a really great asset to have, and definitely be as young as LaPorta is in this offense, which again, ton of room to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him falling more without ever hitting those touchdown marks, those double-digit touchdown marks. We're down around tight end 5, 6, 7 in that range. And for me, if he's going at the range of tight end 3 overall, if I could tear down just a little bit, get a little bit more on top, maybe a Tyler Warren, if I really believe. Now, obviously, if they're players you believe in. Dalton Kincaid is somebody who I kind of believe in. For Sam LaPorta, now that plus would have to be like a tight end premium first.
Yeah.
For Sam LaPorta, but if I could take that still, like, I don't want to miss out. I don't want to compare him to Kyle Pitts, because Kyle Pitts has been so bad since his elite when he was tight end 1. For me, I think Sam LaPorta could live closer to that 6 range. And if I can get 3 value, and again, just fall back a little bit, tear down just a little bit, and get a little extra on top, whether it be help at running back, receiver, draft capital, I think I'd rather move there now before we see maybe possibly one of these young tight ends kind of even like a chance for Tyler Warren to surpass him. A guy like TJ Hockenson could take another step forward with a full healthy year at 28 years old. So I think if Sam LaPorta doesn't produce that top couple, top 3 overall tight end numbers, we could see his ADP kind of start to drop to that 6, 7, 8 range and see him take a step back. So I'd rather just be one step ahead on LaPorta than not just give him away, but he's definitely a player that I am shopping. I think we talked on a Nerd Herd show, like he's a perfect partner player, right? Like in a tight end premium, like you really want to go with the big time name, you give up a Terry McLaurin and Sam LaPorta to get like the Amon-Ra St. Brown, for example, and some possibilities a trade along those lines.
Sure.
He opens that door and really goes, wow, it gives a person, I'm getting a very solid young asset back, tight end 1 overall with that ADP.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's an interesting player because I feel like he could go either way. You know what I mean? I don't know how you feel about him. It sounds like you're kind of leaning towards there's too many too many mouths to feed for him to get the amount of targets that it's going to take. But
I'm again not where he's not good. I think where he finished last year is tight end 6.
Yeah.
In that kind of range. Now, if he's tight end 5, okay. If he's tight end 7, whatever. But I would lean he's closer to tight end 5 than he would be tight end 7, but still in that range.
You have him closer to 6 than you do 1, is what you're saying. Like you
Correct.
Don't see him repeating or being one of those top 3 guys year in, year out.
And the fact that he's tight end 3 in our current ADP, which obviously Brock Bowers, clear-cut choice number 1.
Obviously,
Trey McBride, clear-cut choice number 2. But where his ADP is overall, where do I have it overall?
Sam LaPorta's ADP overall right now is 42.
42. So the fact is, after Bowers and Trey McBride go off the board in a startup, people feel like at that pick at 42, like, wow, I have to really go get Sam LaPorta, right? So he doesn't just hold tight end 3 value overall. He holds the 42nd overall startup value. And that's where I'm trying to look to move Sam LaPorta. Where like if he's going to fall back just a little bit, the tight end 6, 7 range, like whoever where that ADP is, you're talking a couple rounds down there. So he's going to produce at that level. Then I would rather, like, you can trade for those guys in smaller batches too. We just mentioned Kittle's available, Evan Ingram, a guy like Jonnu Smith, who you like a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Guys out there are available. So if I can flip him into a more higher scoring asset, right? Like a better receiver, a better running back, which we're not, they're not running back 3 overall, wide receiver 3 overall. They're still outscoring a Sam LaPorta.
So just an example, one of the guys right behind him, Travion Henderson's player 44 off the board in a Superflex tight end premium. Would you rather have Travion or Sam LaPorta?
I would want to make sure I have a tight end to back up LaPorta, but if he was anybody remotely solid, right? Like I would feel pretty comfortable about getting Travion Henderson, because I think if Travion Henderson hits, the return I get on Travion Henderson definitely be better than Sam LaPorta. If Sam LaPorta is going to live in that tight end 6 range, which is what I believe, then that's where the value slippins, because again, I think if he finishes at tight end 6 this year, we're going to see that 40 overall ADP really possibly drop down to like the 60s in that range. And if any other tight end step up, They have a chance to jump him. Like a TJ Hawkinson, I feel pretty confident that George Kittle could see a jump with another solid
So,
year.
for example, ADP-wise, if you wanted to go with Travion Henderson in the early 40s there over Sam LaPorta, if you wanted to get your tight end later around the 115, 120 mark, guys like David Njoku, Jonnu Smith, guys like that are going. Conversely, if you take Sam LaPorta early and then you draft your running back late, would you rather have, let's say it's David Njoku. So let's say it's David Njoku and Travion Henderson, or would you rather have Sam LaPorta and then guys in the 115 to 120 range, Tyrone Tracy, Tony Pollard, Zach Charbonnet, Trey Benson?
Yeah, it's ugly.
Yeah. So like what duo would you rather walk away with?
Correct.
And I get it, because tight end, is so kind of fluid, and there's only those two guys that are really locked in right at the top, I feel like. But LaPorta still feels like a guy that could get there to me. So I'm not ready to give up. So it would have to be a premium, a pretty good premium.
Yes, and he's not
in a trade.
So when you talk sells, we mentioned this a lot. We do these shows. Like, just because you say sell a player doesn't mean you don't like the player. Right. I still think he's an elite. Not elite. I think he's a very good dynasty asset. Yeah. Like, when you have a 22-year-old tight end that's shown already in his rookie year, they could be a tight end 1 overall. We did the history stats there. If you're a tight end, top 4 tight end once in your first, was it 2 or 3 years? Or your first
if you're a top 6 guy in your first 2 seasons, right now, we'll see how the numbers play out, but right now it's about a 90% hit rate that they're going to do it again.
So, yeah, I like the player. I think you just said it best. With the ADP, where he's currently overall valued, and I do feel like he'll live in that tight end 5, tight end 6 points per game. Of course, he'll have another year or two where he's 4 or 3. You know what I mean? I don't think he's going to outproduce McBride or without injury or Bowers or somebody else. I'm with you. I'd rather have Travion Henderson and David Njoku than Sam LaPorta and Tyrone Tracy. Yeah. That's the best way to describe it. So if I could just flip that on current ADP value, not necessarily those players, but in that range, essentially, that's exactly what I want to do. And that's what I use ADP for, right? That's why it's there. ADP is not just there to show you, like, for a startup draft. It helps you cultivate trades, right? Like, you see where the value is. It's like, okay, this makes sense, because if I move back here, I could have got this player anyway. So a lot of other people passed him up at this range. So yeah, it's one of my tier down players.
So I mean, before we move on, and I think the right answer is, not passing on Sam LaPorta in the short but the long term, that might look pretty ugly, right? Because you're looking at short-term assets at the running back position versus long-term assets at the tight end position.
At this point, Travion Henderson, I don't think it's going to be drastically different, because he got 2 years already. So maybe he still gets 2 more years longer than Travion, but
sure.
I think the points per game could be very drastic between the two, though. Even for a shorter window. Say I get 6 years of Travion Henderson.
I just wanted to put out the counterpoint.
Backs.
At least the long-term view of that one could be bad.
Typically, the tight end plays longer.
Sure.
But for me, I've really made the shift of living in like 3-year windows.
That's smart.
And beyond that,
that's how you win. That's how you win.
Yeah. So
instead of just having a sexy team on paper.
Yeah, because I've done that. I've done that too many times where I'm like, in 3 years, this team's going to be so freaking good, and then it's not. Yep. And you're like, gosh, if I would have just held on to Derrick Henry, who ended up having 4 more running back 1 seasons instead of selling him when he got old, like that kind of stuff. But
that happens, and that's part of it, though. It happens.
It does.
And we've talked about this a lot over the last couple of years and on our Nerd Herd shows of living those 3-year windows, and I've gravitated that way too as well. It's like, dude, it could be like his value could be 4 more years, and I'm again not giving players away. But like I'm not going to let the fact of like, oh, he could still be playing at a high level 5 years from now. Right. Like everything's going to be, my whole team's going to be
a 22-year-old running back versus 24-year-old running back. I'm not going to stress that too much, that kind of stuff. But to go back to
it's also team structure too, and where your team is at. Like 100%. Every move is predicated on that.
So to go to this, the one thing I don't think we mentioned much that does just have a little bit of trepidation in my mind, just with the Lions in general, is sometimes we see great offensive coordinators leave and the next guy steps right in and it's no big deal and they keep on trucking. Other times a great offensive coordinator leaves and things start to fall apart a little bit. Yep. So that's what I'm curious about too, is Could they just keep on humming? It would not surprise me. They've got some good veteran leaders on that team. I could see that happening, but I could also see it where it starts to fall off a little bit. They also very like kind of under the radar move. They're like a week or two ago, they're all pro center Frank Ragnow just up and retired.
Yep.
Out of the blue. So that could, I mean, those centers, if you have an elite center, they anchor everything in that offensive line. All the communication runs through them. So we'll see how big of an effect. But those two things have me just a little bit on the worried side for the Lions offense, repeating the ridiculous numbers they put up the past 2 years.
And we've seen, God, I'm blanking on the head coach's name.
Dan Campbell?
Yes, thank you. We've seen Dan Campbell take over play calling before in the past, before Ben Johnson got there, when the play calling wasn't up to par. So I think he is at least a little bit of a safety net in the fact that he's an
offensive player.
Yeah, he was an offensive player. He was a tight end. He did a decent job kind of taking over and righting that ship when it did kind of go off course.
Sure.
Before Ben Johnson's tenure there. So I think that at least is a little bit in the back of my mind, and a safety net type of situation for that offense to stay afloat. But he was a tight end. So that also kind of is a feather in Sam LaPorta's cap a little bit as well. He's going to know how to use that and prioritize that a little bit in the back of his mind, no matter what. I feel like that's always going to be a little soft spot for him.
Yeah.
But, all right, moving on to my unpopular sell amongst at least the group here.
At least
the Garret group section of this group. I am going to sell Jonnu Smith. And currently right now, he's got a pretty inflated ADP of 125 or 121. I'm sorry, it's even higher, or 122, right around there. I updated this and then we updated our stuff, so mine might be a little bit off. 122 is his current ADP. And here's why. It's not that I think Jonnu Smith is a bum. I don't. I just think that last year was kind of this perfect storm that came together in age 29. This was this dude's Gary Barnidge year. It's not that he completely came out of nowhere to be a Gary Barnidge, but this was far and away his best season.
Sure.
And last year in Miami was a goofy year where, Tua's in and out of the lineup. Tyreek was in the lineup, but was never really right the entire year. Waddle himself was just inefficient and oddly kind of disconnected from this offense and just never seemed like a factor. And that all led to Jonnu Smith getting 111 targets last year. And that's by far the most he's ever had in any season. The previous high that he had was the last year in Atlanta, which was 2023, which was under Arthur Smith, where he had 70 targets. And I mean, for reference, last year with those, he had 111 targets, 88 receptions, 884 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So that landed him in the tight end 4 overall last season. So really great season. And I think last year was probably the time to really capitalize on this, because, now we get to this offseason. I still think he's a sell, but I think you could have got the most right at the end of last season for a guy like Jonnu Smith, but I still think he's a sell. We turn into the offseason. Jonnu Smith wants a new contract. Miami's basically like, go pound salt, dude. Like, you're not getting a new contract. You signed a 2-year contract last year. That's your contract, man. And he still is like, I want a new contract. And they're like, fine, go find a trade. And where did he go? Right to his buddy Arthur Smith, where he had 70 targets, as a high with him. And then his previous target before that was also Arthur Smith last year in Tennessee. When they were together, it was 65 targets. So these aren't like super high numbers, right? They're not the 111 that got him to tight end 4. And they can't work out a deal. And I don't know the why behind that. I don't know if it's the compensation. I don't know if it's they don't want to pay him enough money because they know they're not going to use him the same as they used him in Miami last year. I just don't see a scenario where Miami gets him 111 targets this year with a okay, like a healed Tyreek, a healed Tua, and hopefully a Waddle that comes back. I don't see the volume being there in this offense, and it seems like even if he goes somewhere, it's going to be to this familiar situation with the Steelers and Arthur Smith, where he's still not going to get the volume.
Let me ask you this. As the 120-something player off the board,
yeah,
what in the world are you getting for Jonnu Smith that actually makes it worth it to trade him? Because I'm looking in the trade browser right here. There's a lot of like Jonnu Smith for a third.
There's one in there, Jonnu Smith for Trey Benson. You're not gonna make that move for a running back, a second-year running back that basically didn't get any sort of
I don't see that one
last year.
But sure.
You don't see that?
Fill my ears with lies.
I don't see it, but I don't know how far back you scrolled, but
are you looking at the tight end premium one?
I just did Superflex because that's more common, but yeah, I could
look in the tight end premium one. That's where I saw that one,
Okay,
and that's the only way I'd be looking to move.
That's
this
ADP
guy.
we're basing it off of.
Yeah. So that's
okay. I see it.
Yeah, so,
I see it.
So right on top is him for Trey Benson. There's also Jonnu Smith, a 25-second, and Tyrone Tracy for Kenneth Walker. And so you're basically getting Kenneth Walker for a flash in the pan tight end.
For
and
Jonnu Smith, straight up almost.
For a flash in the pan tight end and a second-round draft pick. So for me, I would definitely take that. And a young running back who's probably going to get his job taken by Cam Scattergood.
That just goes to tell me we already know there's a lot of bad owners in Dynasty.
Yeah. So there might be a couple random ones. I saw a lot of like him for third. But that being said, like I just don't think you like most leagues you're not going to get much for him. Even if it's a second, it's going to be like 212, 211.
He has to be the sprinkles on the ice cream. You know what I mean? Like he's a good
for it to make sense.
Yeah, kind of pad it up for somebody. Like
but I also
needs tight end help.
I guess I just don't see what's changed. Like literally, he's one of the few players that it's the same coach, it's the same quarterback, it's the same offensive coordinator. It's the same everything. No player missed significant time other than Tua, which he was great with Tua. So if anything, he would get more. Huh?
Hill was hurt,
but he played. I mean, he was there.
Tyreek Hill was. I think this is a different. I think last year was a weird year for them where they just kind of had to piece it together. Have they ever used a tight end in that offense in Miami?
No.
Not until all of a sudden last year.
It's hard to say that because he's not been there that long, and before he was with George Kittle, and they used George Kittle all the time. So
Mike Gesicki with Tua.
In Mike McDaniel's version of this offense, they haven't used one until last year.
But in Mike McDaniel's offense in San Francisco, he did because he had one that was worth using.
Okay. I mean, I think this is going to be one of those we're going to go back and forth with these.
I just don't know if you're ever going to get anything that's not worth the gamble that he's a top 6 guy again.
My dad would beat up your dad.
Prove it.
Do it, you won't. If I'm going to sell a tight end, I'd rather I think there's guys that you can just get a ton more for that have lower ceilings.
I just don't think this guy's going to have any value, and right now he's got some.
Okay.
So you don't see a situation where he just drops back and he's tight end 18 this year.
Is it entirely possible? Yes.
Like he says it like it's a magical tale.
But for a third round pick, I'll get back. Or
could the Dragons have
12?
lived?
Sure.
I'm looking at these trades, and it's Smith for 226 seconds. I'll take that.
I will too,
Smith
but I don't think we live in that world where
Smith
that happens very often.
For a 26 second, we have a trade finder for this exact purpose.
But I mean, look at where his ADP is.
It is thousands of trades we're looking at though, and
if his ADP is 122, he's not getting like.
All right, who's going right around him? Who's going right around 122?
All right, let's look at players right in the same
Let's see the realistic terms.
Let's
Not
see.
people. Let's see right around that range, preferably behind him.
All right, just at tight end or overall?
No, overall.
Okay.
Jack Besh, I would take him. Trey Benson right behind that. I would take him.
Trey Benson, honestly, it would depend on the situation.
Michael
for real.
Pittman.
For
I would
real
take
for me.
him.
For
Wait,
real.
Michael
for me.
Pittman's behind Jonnu Smith?
Yeah.
He's way low right now. We talked about him in the ADP episode. His is like really low right now.
Michael Pittman's that low?
Yeah.
Whoa,
I mean, I would
Debo
Debo Samuel. I would take Debo
some
Samuel over him.
offers.
I mean, like,
Dude, reports out of camp so far, head coach really likes Debo.
who
Now,
would you?
the fair, they could be talking about Debo big time. They say, hey, Terry, you're not going to go to camp. We got Debo Samuel.
Same position. Mason Taylor.
I like Mason Taylor, and I would have no problem taking Mason Taylor.
Oh, sexy time.
I agree with that. I would have no problem with that. But there's also players above, him. I'd rather have him than Tyrone Tracy. I'd rather have him than Keon Coleman. I'd rather have so there's players above him I'd rather have too.
Keon Coleman's reportedly struggling with drops right now.
That usually gets better, right? That's how the story usually goes.
Well, who knows? I mean, Dalton Kincaid went through an issue with that last year. Maybe
And he's looked great in OTAs.
He's looked great.
Speak of the devil, my sell for the tight end position is Dalton Kincaid.
All right.
Cold-blooded.
Look, you set me up, you put it on a tee,
Yeah.
and I had to hit it out of the park. For me, it's not even as much about specifically Dalton Kincaid, although obviously he's been a disappointment. How much of that was injury? How much of that wasn't? We'll find out.
We will find out. It sounds like
We'll see.
both knees were messed up or something last year.
Yeah, and it's entirely possible.
A wrist, perhaps.
But we are now on to year 3.
Yeah.
We
Tell you
know
about a tip of violation.
this is really kind of his last real shot, typically for it. We want to see guys and do it in the first 2 years. That's what we really want to see. If it's third year, we've seen some guys do that, but this is really his last chance.
I mean, we saw Jonnu Smith do it last year in year 18.
There we go, baby. Telling me there's a chance.
Dynasty's also giving patience, Garrett. You live in a 3-year window, but I plan on living forever.
So J-Jaw still might be good. Tell me there's a chance.
Never know.
We playing Dynasty UFL?
Part of it is if you're the tight end like 7, 8, I automatically don't like you. It really truly doesn't matter the name that much that's there.
Oh, so you're just discriminatory.
Yeah, 100%.
I hate 7s. I hate 8s. I love everybody else.
I love everybody else.
It's just that range, man.
Well, when you look at obviously the top 2 or 3 guys, those are always your elite players. They're performing now. They still got years ahead of them. Then you get into the range of awesome rookies that we're excited about or proven veterans that can help you win a ship this year.
You know what messed it up for you? Leonard Fournette, tight end 7.
Dang it, Lenny.
Throw ADP off.
He set the bar too high.
He set it too high. But then after that, for me, the difference between Dalton Kincaid, Mark Andrews, Tucker Kraft, Kyle Pitts, David Njoku, Jonnu Smith, like even all the way down like Evan Ingram that we talked about as a buy.
Sure.
Like the difference for me in all of those guys is minuscule. So if one of them is going to go off of the board as the 93rd player, and the other one's going to go off the board as the 135th player. For me, 40 spots of value.
Yeah, wait 3 rounds and
I would just rather wait 3 rounds, take the last guy in the tier, because chances are I'm going to get roughly the same production out of him that I am at everybody else. Dalton Kincaid, could he perform? I haven't fully given up hope.
he's supposed to be stronger this year.
I hope
I
so.
heard he caught everything at OTAs.
When pads weren't on, he caught everything.
Mm-hmm.
I blew on the Kindles to make sure they're still freshly hot, and they still are. So I had to make sure, didn't it?
So
No flame,
Are they?
but it's still hot.
Okay.
Coals
it
are
is.
hot.
It's just it's
Coals
the
are hot.
range every year that
I'm still warm is what I'm trying
I
to say.
don't want to be the first guy to take that player in that tier. I would rather just wait and take the last one.
I'm a tight end slut, so I'm all over that. Pick 90. Can't get by me, lover.
Listen, I came in hot, not quite as hot and heavy with Dalton Kincaid as Rich, but pretty close. And he was pretty disappointing up until this year. We'll see. So I am losing faith. It's not completely gone. I am disappointed with what we've gotten so far out of him from a fantasy production. But it sounds like there were some issues as far as injuries. So hopefully that is straightened out. And this is kind of a no excuse year. If he can't do it now, I am probably going to turn the page on that one a little bit.
Yeah, I'm still. I said I'm still a believer. I loved hearing of OTAs. Finding out after the season, like you mentioned, he had like 2 different issues that we weren't even really aware of how bad. Like, I think I read one of the things from one of the beat writers saying like I don't think people realized how hurt Dalton Kincaid really was.
I think I must have read that same report.
in those last year. So for me, a player like, what got me so excited about Dalton Kincaid coming out was like how well of a route runner he was at
Fluid.
Utah.
He was fluid.
Right. He was so fluid, like a giant big receiver. Yeah. And then he was so fresh into the position. He only started playing football when he was a senior in high school. So to see him, like I expected him, when I was breaking down this film and talking about how excited about I was about him as a prospect, thinking he has so much room to grow. Like if he's running routes this well with hands that good this early into playing the position, like wow, like give him some NFL coaching, give him some time to develop a rapport with the quarterback. Like there's a star in the making. He goes to Buffalo, right, with Josh Allen. Like what a great situation. I'm really hoping that last year of him being hurt, like does kind of push that number back where like year 3 can be his year. And what's nice is there is a clear path for him to have the opportunity when we talk about being a number 1 or number 2 option in an NFL offense, right? You mentioned Keon Coleman's having drop issues. We know it's a hard offense to learn and develop it to. It usually takes a year. So, but having drop issues has nothing about learning the playbook. So yes, they signed Khalil Shakir to a contract extension, but that extension wasn't like wide receiver 1 extension numbers. It was just good wide receiver 2 extension money, and rightfully so. He's a solid receiver. They bring Elijah Moore. They still have Curtis Samuel there.
Palmer, is he there?
I think they signed Josh Palmer. They have no like James Cook's a pass catcher running back, but that's not a big part of their game. So there is a clear path for Dalton Kincaid to take that big step forward in year 3, and it's kind of like where I'm more like buying the dip on Kincaid there. Because like sometimes, like you said, where you hate that tight end 7, I'm with you. Like I hate tight end 7 too. So like I mentioned how it's such a small group, anytime that I have a chance, like just a chance to like have that player opportunity, any chance I can get, whether it be a rookie, a veteran, or preferably a young guy, I definitely believe in his tape. Like I kind of want to gamble on that. So if he's going right around pick 90, and I can find maybe an owner kind of like you, or anybody who's kind of like, I think it's just done. He hasn't done it yet. It doesn't fit that mold. And I could buy some kind of discount there and get that opportunity. Then I think I'm more of a buy than I am a sell.
Okay.
I understand where you're coming from about the position. It's just, I think I would fall more in the category of I do
because of that specific player.
And I'm really just hoping it comes back to like that injury. And that's why he didn't take that step forward.
Right.
So like, this is going to be real. His like his second full year, not way more now knows the playbook, but could be more fluid in it.
Yeah, I mean it got to the point where without knowing what was going on from an injury standpoint, it looked like, hey, this guy can't handle the physicality of the NFL. But when you hear about the injuries that he's trying to fight through while he's playing, then the optics start to make a little bit more sense.
Sure.
Hey, this dude can't fight. He can't handle the physicality because he's all dinged up, and it's just hard to operate like that at an effective level anyway with the best athletes in the world. You know what I mean? Like that's just hard to do. So hopefully you're right, Rich, and this is kind of, it all clicks this year.
Yeah, but I'm with you. He has to do something this year, and I'm excited. He's one of those players like I'm real excited about watching. See if he can take that step. You know, it's like
I hope he does.
More so I can say, hey, I told you so. Yeah,
I have plenty of shares. I would love to be wrong.
Say I have plenty of shares would be an understatement.
I guarantee I don't have as many as you guys, but
I got a lot. So, all right, before we get into our next sell, I got to tell you about our friends over at My FFPC. If you haven't checked out the platform or played on My FFPC, you're just really missing out on a great hosting platform. And it's there for us, the Dynasty enthusiasts, where, hey, man, like, I love the game of Dynasty. I only have, like, a group of friends that I play with. I want to expand my horizons, whether it be a new format, like the RotoViz Triflex, Superflex leagues, just a Superflex league period, or any other kind of like different kind of format you want to play. My FFPC is going to give you that opportunity. And more importantly, too, it's going to give you the opportunity to play for any price range you want to play from, because it's from $70 up to $2,000. I think $2,200 for the highest league. So if you feel like you excel at this game, there's an opportunity for you to make a lot of money. If you go in those leagues and do well. So my FFPC also gives you the opportunity of just security, right? Like when you play Dynasty and we talk about trading away 27 first and 25 first. Like if you play in like a $500 league, it could take a couple guys just quitting because they don't want to go through the rebuild, and the league could fold. And you just trade away all these assets for nothing. You don't have to worry about that at my FFPC, because since they've started, they've never had a league fold ever. So you have the security, you have the formats that you want, and league mates that you can trust. So check them out, myffpc.com. Use the promo code NERDS, and if you do, myffpc is going to give you $25 off a league. And if it's a $70 league, that's like over 30. That's a 30% coupon.
There you go.
If it's a $2,200 league, that's like a 1% coupon. But listen.
But if you're playing in that league, you don't need our coupon.
You don't need to shun our money. Yeah, first of all, support our sponsors.
But you use it.
Yeah.
I mean, use it.
Yeah.
Use it and then buy yourself like a steak at the grocery store.
There you go.
If I was Elon Musk and somebody offered me $25, I'm like, oh, thanks, buddy.
Yeah. I'm not going to take $25. Right. If you have heard us talk about FastDraft before, and you are in Pennsylvania or in the in great up north, Canada, you're like, you guys keep talking about FastDraft and I can't play there. Well, guess what? You can play now on FastDraft. It is available both in PA and in Canada now. We've talked about it before. FastDraft. If you like platforms like Underdog, where you can draft best ball teams, you're like, I'm so excited to get in here, just real quick, draft some teams, see how it all performs. I don't have to set any lineups, do anything like that. You can do that over at FastDraft. It's a new platform. They have some really unique settings too. Ones where you can simply just draft rookies. We've talked about rookies all the time. This is your chance to just go in there and, hey, I think, I don't think Isaac TeSlaa can do it this year, but you know what? I'm really high on a deeper wide receiver like Pat Bryant, so I'm going to draft him. And I think you can do all of those things over there on FastDraft. An amazing place to play. Great for just like quick poop break. Oh, let me draft a team, and I'm done. Awesome platform. Best of all, we've got two awesome things coming with this. One, if you deposit up to $50, they're going to match that deposit. So now you have $100, which means you have anywhere from 10 to 20 drafts that you get to do this season. And that was basically, they were all half off. But second of all, because you partnered with our partner of FastDraft, we are going to give you a free year of the Dynasty GM. Woo. That includes the extra Nerd Herd podcast, the film room, the nerd score, all of the extra tools and things like that we have at Dynasty Nerds. It's carte blanche, whatever that is.
Carte blanche.
It's a lot. It's all of it. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, you get that.
Blanche. It's a kit and a caboodle.
Mm-hmm. So use promo code NERDS at checkout to get that extra deposit match plus everything we have with the GM. FastDraft, promo code NERDS.
And if you're a Nerd Herd member, we're going to give you a gift certificate to the merch
T-shirt
store.
Worth a T-shirt, or you can just use it as a part of your money toward a hoodie or something.
And my favorite part about that whole thing is that you managed to work in and a poop break. Boop, 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 boop.
That's the noise I make when I poop.
I guess so. Garret apparently is a rabbit.
That or Pac-Man. I don't know what's going on around here. All right, so
I picture that, by the way, as the noise a rabbit makes when it poops.
I thought you were Garret pooping. I was like, it's
no, not Garret.
You're very imaginative.
I oftentimes think about
Garret pooping.
I mean, only when I'm bored.
Yeah, just when I'm pooping.
Odell over here.
All right, so now we're gonna move on to ourselves. We're at the quarterback position, and we were kind of talking this out because we knew the topic of the show, and we're like,
let's do it a little different.
We generally know the topics of the show normally.
But we were going through, like, again, having that discussion. I think we did a show previously as well. It's like, wow, we feel really comfortable with the ADP right now, the Superflex ADP. So it's kind of hard to not fall in that category of the show topics sell. You got to find a sell just to have the complete the show topic. And now you're just speaking on something you don't fully believe. Now there's always value. In more, I think a lot of the quarterbacks would fall more in the category of tearing down than just sell, get out from under this player.
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to do is Garrett's going to go through the ADP, and that'll let you. Again, if you hear something different, let us know. I mean, we're all over social media. Hit us up and say, hey, I really disagree with the ADP. I think he's value.
That's the thing, and especially with how we as a podcast value the quarterback position. It's tough to say, just outright sell this quarterback because one, they're just such high scoring assets. But on top of that, right now, I think as a community, we have it pretty close to correct. So it's hard to make a lot of moves. There's players I want to buy at the position, but there's very few that I want to sell. So right now, number one guy ADP wise at quarterback, we have Josh Allen, then Jaden Daniels, then Lamar Jackson. That tends to be a bit of a tier. Some will have Jackson in that tier, some won't. But that tends to kind of be that top tier at quarterback. Our rankings wise, we all have those guys fairly high as well. Then Joe Burrow. Rich, how do you feel about Joe Burrow? Because I know that you have some guys that maybe are a little bit ahead of him, but not to the point where you're selling him though.
No, I feel 100% comfortable Joe Burrow. He is elite to me, as elite can possibly get. I think here's the thing. Because of the injuries the last couple of years, everybody knows Joe Burrow, right? But to me, I think he is a top 5 NFL quarterback. And now to have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase tied up long term, and definitely importantly, Jamar Chase. So bring back Mike Gesicki as well, a pass catching tight end. Joe Burrow, with anybody, I feel like would just be an elite quarterback. He is such a good NFL quarterback where his numbers alone will just, he doesn't have to rush a lot because he's going to throw for so many yards, so many touchdowns. So I feel very good about Joe Burrow here, and the slides in there. And now, could you make a lateral move? Like if say you love Justin Herbert and you want to get like Justin Herbert, and now you can get like a whatever, maybe a running back or like that's fine too. I understand that as well. But I think if you say, hey, Joe Burrow belongs here, I'm okay with that. And that, to the point where like I think Joe Burrow's closer to Lamar Jackson than down the list.
And Joe Burrow's concerns, his injury concerns last year, there was like a ligament tear in his hand or wrist area, and that there was potentially going to be some long-term issues. And then all the dude did was go out and be the QB3 last year and throw for 43 touchdowns. You know what I mean? He was a monster. So I think that needs to be kind of flushed, so to speak, and Joe Burrow does need to be kind of spoken in that top 5 area for sure.
Next we have Jalen Hurts off the board. He's kind of the 5th quarterback off the board. He's shown kind of year in and year out, he's just pretty consistent.
He's going to be there until there's a catastrophic injury or something falls off majorly with the passing.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes, the one that's up next as our quarterback 6.
I'm a big tier down for Pat Mahomes at this point. He's not old. He's 30, but I think he's going to start entering that range where like we're going to probably rely a little bit less on his rushing for fantasy football points. I think he still throw a lot of touchdowns. I think their running back room is still really up in the air who that future guy could be. Could it be a pass catching running back? Could be just stud running back. I think they're going to get a good one up in this offense sooner than later. And for me, I love Pat Mahomes. And I think last year he finished as QB10, weeks 1 through 17. And again, that's an elite asset, and I like it. But I think the ADP, we certainly look at the ADP where right now, like his ADP is 14th overall, right? He's the 14th overall player, QB6. I am way more comfortable tearing down. And again, I don't want to be redundant because I like CJ Stroud is a sell, right? I can't say the same thing on every week's podcast. I said the same thing on JJ Zachary's show. I think like Brock Purdy is the most perfect tear down quarterback in this range. Like if I'm getting, to me, on the overall stats and points per game, the difference between Brock Purdy and Pat Mahomes isn't much. And Brock Purdy, even though he finished his quarterback 12 last year, he has finished better than Pat Mahomes. So for me, with that youth in that extension, if I can move all the way down to the 44th, 5th overall player for 14, that's a good add-on. Moving on from Pat Mahomes to Brock Purdy. I can get a running back I like, possibly a first-round pick in this range as well. But it could really help better my team for getting equal to, if not better, production. And I think over the career, like so, if Brock Purdy plays 10 more years in this offense, he'll be 35. If Pat Mahomes plays 10 more years, he'll be 40 years old. So I think for what I'm going to get, again, long-term outside your 3-year window, like I would much rather just get the plus in this range and players in that category, or even like if I really do believe and say at a safe quarterback too, like going after a new young stud like a JJ McCarthy. If I'm gonna sit here and say he's a sell and I believe him as much as I do, like, oh, okay, here's Pat Mahomes plus. But again, depending on where my team is as well. But he's just a player that, and again, I'm not advocating taking Pat Mahomes for JJ McCarthy.
Right, saying, you want a lot on top.
It'd be more like something like so secure, like a Brock Purdy. Who I feel is in the offense that he is currently in, which is now guaranteed to be for at least probably most likely the next 5 years, he's going to be a quarterback one.
Matt, I don't know what you think about this, but it's interesting to me because we have basically the top 5 quarterbacks are the first 6 players off the board. Then we see Patrick Mahomes. He's roughly right around the turn. He's right now like the 13th player off the board. But then the rest of the quarterbacks, they're not like going until the end of the second round, beginning of the third round. We have guys like Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, Drake May, Bo Nix, all of these guys, even CJ Stroud.
So these are turn from second to third type of
turn from second to third. The ADP right now of Caleb Williams is 23.6, 24.3 for Herbert, 26.1 for Drake May, 26.4 for for Bo Nix, 28.7 for CJ Stroud. So we're seeing all these guys not at the 1 to 2 turn, but the 2 to 3 turn.
If I had picked 1-1 and I took Jaden Daniels.
Your name's not Matt.
Yeah, your name's not Matt.
So what do you think?
Go ahead.
Matt.
Proceed.
Oh, I'm sorry, he did. I just want to say, if I can go from 1-1,
Right.
I had Jaden Daniels. I came back to me and Justin Herbert was there at 2-1. I'd feel like I was getting punked. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, no, it'd be crazy.
There's no analysis. I'm just more flabbergasted at that he's
the
going that
ADP.
range.
So I'm guessing there's like a bunch of running backs and
Well, we have a lot of young receivers
Wide
right now because there's
receivers
really
getting
only
pushed up?
3 running backs that are going in that range.
Okay.
But you have all of the JSNs, the Drake Londons, the guys that are going kind of right around that range, Brian Thomas, that are kind of pushing these quarterbacks down. So right now we have 5 first-round quarterbacks for sure.
Brock Bowers.
Yeah, and then guys like Brock Bowers, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, those guys. But then really, now if you go by ADP rank, we have 20th, 21, 23, 25, 26. So, yeah, you can see they're kind of all right around that turn there.
So what I'd love to do, and I don't know that, obviously we're not doing a mock draft right now, but if I was at like 4, it's like you're almost missing those top 3 guys. Like, do you just take best positional player and then wait for the
quarterback?
Get Justin Herbert and then get
yourself a Brock Bowers, get yourself Jamar Chase.
Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, and then you got like this pretty good stack going right there. And you still got your 2 quarterbacks, and you still have a a pretty good player there. Positionally, you get Brock Bowers. You know what I mean?
Because even the next 3 guys off the board that now are going,
that might be the business right there.
The late 3rd into the 4th at this point, we're looking at Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, Cam Ward. All of those guys are going from like Jordan Love's at 35, so he's going to be at the very end of the 3rd.
Yeah.
And then all of these other guys.
Good gamble for your quarterback. At that point, your quarterback too.
Right? All of these guys are 4th rounders: Kyler, Baker, Purdy, Cam Ward.
So you might even you're getting decent guys in the 4th round.
Yeah.
Like you might be able to leapfrog. You know what I mean? You might be able to go Bowers and then a running back and then see what you get. Like if you could get a
still walk away with Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
like you're pretty darn happy.
Yeah, and you got Bowers and Jameer Gibbs.
Yeah.
It also shows like say you have pick 1 through 5, and somebody wants the Lamar Jacksons, the Jaden Daniels. Like, if you could trade down to pick like 2-1, 2-2, and then get an extra 3rd on top, now you're really cooking. Now you know you're getting the 2 tight quarterbacks you want, and now you get these 2 other like elite bonus players on top of that. You miss out on that one league quarterback, but you're getting 2 young ones in return.
And this is why we didn't want to force this, because this was supposed to be quarterback sells. Like we did our tight end sells because they made sense.
Right.
But right now it's just where the ADP is dictating. There's just not a lot of quarterbacks that are sells. If anything, it's like
they're dropping
value,
they're almost artificially dropping for some odd reason.
And you know what else I'll say? Because in Superflex leagues, what we're talking about this is it's hard to have so many quarterbacks to sell in the first place. Because if you have 2, the comfort you have of having like more of like a Sam Darnold, right? Because I can give Sam Darnold away for first because I have Josh Allen and I don't want to use 2 like Jared Goff, for example. I have 2 really good quarterbacks. I'm not really going to start them, but you're like, if one of those goes down, my chances of winning, that quarterback 2 is such a high scoring player.
Sure.
Where like now all of a sudden I'm the number 1 seed. Now I can be beat, right? So having that like security blanket sometimes is also outweighs what you can get in return. Because like same thing, if you have Sam Darnold, you could probably get a late first for Sam Darnold. But I also see a ton of teams not really willing to offer a late. You have some people that are believers.
You might be able to get him for a second in some, depending on how your league values quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Like
he is one of those guys that's right on that border. So he could go either way, second, late first, early second.
And that would also depend, do I need Caleb Williams? Right. Is there do I need a back? Do I like Colston Loveland there or Tyler? You know what I mean? So it all depends on that as well. So yeah, I think that's just kind of the current state we are, and that's fine. It's not a bad thing.
Here's the 5th round of quarterbacks. JJ McCarthy at 50. At 53, we have Trevor Lawrence. 56, we have Jared Goff. 59, we have Michael Penix. So that's your 5th round.
All 3. McCarthy could have a huge jump. Trevor Lawrence, if he has the Baker Mayfield effect,
you could have a huge jump.
He's
been a quarterback 1 multiple times.
Jared Goff's one of the most steady guys. He's never ranked as a top 12 quarterback, but always finishes one.
Right.
Pretty much the exact same age as Pat Mahomes too.
And then
almost the same age.
Michael Penix, who like we
Crazy
saw
upside.
a glimpse of, and
almost the same age as Pat Mahomes.
So that's through quarterback 20 right now.
And if any of those guys, obviously excluding JJ McCarthy, because I would take him significantly higher than that. But like, if any of those guys were my QB2, we talked about going like, back to back, like
you're okay with that,
bigger than that. You can go wide receiver and then come back and get them as your wide receiver.
You could take your quarterback in round 3 and round 5 and still walk away pretty darn happy with your quarterback.
Well, now it kind of shows you too, like, okay, you pass on like whoever. Now you can take Justin Herbert and get a couple position, and now really wait on to that quarterback too, and still feel pretty comfortable.
Now, obviously, these are just these are average draft positions.
Right.
So this could, like an individual draft, you're in
get crazy.
Could get nuts.
You have to really figure
Garrett
out the flow.
Garrett could be in there gobbling every single quarterback in 5 rounds straight.
And when a run starts,
will.
Same thing. Like, oh, dude, like there's still 6 quarterbacks on my left on the board I really like, and you pick 7. Like I'm gonna get it. It could literally just go
Quarterback,
6 straight
quarterback.
quarterback, and you're like, oh no, I got
Crap.
Sam Darnold. Like I don't hate it, but like again, if Sam Darnold's your quarterback too, are you going to the year going, yeah, dude, I'm the favorite to win this?
And that's why you're not a slave to ADP, because you're like, well, we just had 12 quarterbacks go in the first 2 rounds. ADP says there should only be 6 or 7 that go in the well, sorry, there's 12 went.
This is the real life draft you're in. You better get with it.
And to be fair, overall, ADP is people are trying to build teams in that format. It's not rankings, right? So it's people are like, oh, I already have 2 quarterbacks. I need to get a running back. So that adjusted as well. So
All right, so to kind of finish out the top 24-ish.
well, so as you go when you go on, I think when we do talk about like selling, but again, even more value at the quarterback we talked about last year, like you said, Daniel Jones chasing the value. I think even if you're like fishing, it's gonna be this range where you're gonna be fishing these outside guys. And I think more. If we're going to say sell, these are the kind of perfect guys that, like Matt said, I don't believe in a long-term answer, but a guy who could probably, in season, if he's playing at an okay level, the return you can get, that's the time to sell.
So at quarterback 21, 65th player off the board, we have Dak Prescott, 71st player off the board, quarterback 22, Bryce Young, quarterback 23 off the board, the 79th guy, Justin Fields, and then the 24th quarterback, 87th player off the board is Tua. Any issue with any of those?
I mean, listen, the way we've broken this down, no. When we were like forcing a guy, Justin Fields was going to be my sell. And really, I mean, it's based off of, me not
you just don't believe in him as a player.
Really believing in him and not really coming around. And I'm not going to break down everything that I was like kind of planning on breaking down, but when you have a guy that's a former first-round draft pick and he fails in Chicago, he goes to the Steelers, right, and performs okay. Like he was just kind of had some good weeks, had some okay weeks.
Better for fantasy than real life, but
even for fantasy, there were like some mid weeks,
sure,
and then there was like a quarterback 1 week, and then it was like a 6. Like he was kind of all over the place.
Sure.
In the 6 starts that he had, which is all he got last year. But the fact that they were so quick to move on from him, and as soon as Russell Wilson was available, they just went right to him. And to me, if you're the Steelers, you're always trying to compete, and for them to turn the page so quickly from him because they just kind of knew they had no way to compete with him. And then to do it for a guy like Russell Wilson, who is a past his prime quarterback that also doesn't really give you a real chance to compete, like for a Super Bowl. It's just kind of like good enough to, hey, your running backs, can maybe carry you in your defense, and you got this guy back here just kind of that's not going to mess it up.
I appreciate the Russ slander.
The fact that then, the offseason comes and they don't make him a real offer, right? Like they didn't want to keep him around. Like it's a good organization. Like Chicago, good organization or not. I mean, I don't know. They're kind of in the middle somewhere.
They also had a chance to get Caleb Williams.
Right. Absolutely. But Chicago's not good. Chicago's not bad. Like I don't have a problem with Chicago as an organization. but then he lands with the Jets. You know what I mean? Like that's one of
the more dysfunctional.
That's the only organization that was willing to take this player on. It's similar to like the Browns for me. You know what I mean?
Very owner meddling.
Right. It's just it's not a good situation. It's not a good culture for a quarterback to go to and then all of a sudden on his third stop succeed. So that's why I'm willing to trade Justin Fields and get out from underneath him while he's a starter and there is some value. I'm not expecting like a huge return. I'm just trying to get anything back for a player that you probably have held for the past 4 or 5 years.
So you're saying he's not Baker Mayfield's Sam Darnold?
I am definitely saying that, in my opinion. I mean, that's just me. I just want to get out.
What I think is, though, Matt, I think that he is a good sell. I just don't think he's a really good sell now. I think he's a fantastic sell in season. Because you're right. Up to this point, he has not produced at all like how an NFL quarterback should produce through the year. Through fantasy, he's done pretty well.
Yeah.
When he's on the field, he's essentially a quarterback one.
Even Pittsburgh, where he wasn't great last year, he was putting up 19.1 points per game in his first 6 starts, which was quarterback 6.
Exactly. Right. So that's when I'm selling. When people, again, they get that itch right away.
And I'm cool with that. I see him as a ticking time bomb.
Sure. Yeah.
Not like your poop.
He's good when he's on the... No.
So I just want to get out from underneath this guy before boom.
Funny.
Yeah.
And
but you don't want to do a boom while you're on the toilet. That was a bad time for a boom.
Everybody's been there.
Everybody's been there.
So I get it, but that's when I think he's going to be a good sell, because what we could say for sure, he's locked in. He's the starter for the New York Jets, and he's probably the starter for the New York Jets for the next 2 years, unless they end up with like another really high draft pick. Isn't his money guaranteed for 2 years? That's why he signed there.
Either way,
I guess of course nothing.
Either way,
I mean, Deshaun
man.
Watson got $250 million guaranteed. Didn't matter. So, anyways,
2 years.
You're
like,
right. Okay, no, I get it.
Way,
but what
they're
I'm saying
going to
is,
draft his replacement next year.
My point wasn't to use it as an argument for keeping him. Yeah. My point is, he's the week 1 starter when
Absolutely.
he's healthy. So having his old receiver and Garrett Wilson there, adding a guy like Mason Taylor, having Breece Hall. You know, like he's got some weapons.
Mason Taylor
around
could
him.
be the linchpin that could like save his career, though. If like Mason Taylor's a stud, like that could be a career saver.
I mean, all reports are that it's a lot of the same, though.
Yeah,
fantastic throws followed by overthrows and
inconsistency,
just total inconsistency from a passing standpoint.
And this could be some of the better weapons. So I just think, like come week 4, week 5, you'll probably get better return than you are right now. Currently, where his ADP is 2. I agree. He is a sell for me. I do have 2 shares left, and I know the moment like he starts to look really good, I'm getting out from under him.
See,
I'm willing to go ahead and take that gamble.
The problem with an inconsistent quarterback like that is at the NFL level, the defenses aren't going to give up a 3rd and 15 very often. You can get away with throwing 2 crappy passes in college and then make 1 spectacular play. But if you get in those situations all the time, they're just drive killers in the NFL, and you cannot win like that. So it's, I don't know. For me, he's a guy that I had questions coming in about his ability to kind of process and handle information coming right at him, and it seems to have just always kind of been an issue.
The contract is one of those Saints contracts, so he has 3 years of like void money after. After his,
so either way, he's on their books for 1 million years, even though
yeah.
he's going to be gone. Fantastic. Gotta love those.
Who's behind him?
So that's all the way through quarterback 24.
Okay.
If you want me to keep going, I'm more than happy to.
So yeah, I mean, that's and I also will say, like, if a quarterback, say somebody goes down and somebody is in a short window, and obviously we're talking about this in June, so this has no bearing now, but something to keep in your back pocket, somebody can possibly remember, like when those situations do present themselves, and a quarterback falls into the starter position for any reason, like a Jameis Winston because of injury, or a Joe Flacco late in the season, and those quarterbacks can produce in a system with the weapons they are in. They are good, like they're worth like late 2nd round picks, right? Like even if it's just for 1 year, because what are you, Garrett? You're in that window to chance to win, and that quarterback's going to produce at a high level. No, that's the thing. Nobody touches the quarterback when it comes to fantasy football production so consistently and so abundantly. So for me, like I like to keep my eyes on those guys that possibly have that opportunity, right? We mentioned Joe Flacco, some of these backups that you can get for cheap right now.
Let me ask you, since we're on sells, what do you do with the Browns quarterback situation if either one of the rookies get in the game at some point because of whatever reason, Let's say it's Dylan Gabriel. Let's say it doesn't matter, Shedeur Sanders. You guys selling? You guys waiting it out? What are you guys doing with those guys?
Well, first of all, you're talking to a diehard Browns fan.
I am
so
aware.
I'm going to look at it differently than other people do.
Take off your Browns.
Yeah,
take
so
off your Browns
glasses. I would say the same thing. Is how early are we talking? Like how many games?
Let's say it's week 8.
No, how many games do I get to watch of them? You're talking about the first game I see of them?
Let's say it's week 8. They've played 3 games and they've been okay.
And they're just okay. He's looked okay.
So playoffs are approaching, all this kind of stuff. You're out of it. You don't really need him. You drafted him in the 4th round.
So I'm out of the playoffs. My team's not good. It's a young quarterback that's starting the NFL in the Superflex league. I'm probably going to hold on and see how it plays out.
Even if a playoff guy comes knocking on your door with a 2nd round draft pick, you draft him in the 4th round.
You wouldn't have drafted Shedeur there, but you could have drafted Dylan Gabriel.
Obviously it comes down to like how obviously I'd be locked in, see how he looks on the field, right? And what my eyes tell me. And if he looks okay, like obviously say it was Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur. It's a draft pick of theirs. He beat out all the other guys. It's a 4-man camp. Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, like he's the next man in. He's the guy that they went with. Like I'm gonna go ahead and just see how that plays out. And if he's playing okay, like a late 2nd, pick 24 in next year's class, or pick 23, some of those lines, like what am I going to get there? Like in a class that Garrett's telling me it's weaker than this class, one of the weaker classes in a long time. Like
it is.
Although
the quarterbacks are decent, but they're not going to be there at 23.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not talking about the whole class as a whole. We're talking about the back end of a shallow class. I'm not saying there's going to be talent there. So for me, I'd rather just go, if there's no different than I would feel like Aiden O'Connell, right? Like Aiden O'Connell's our quarterback. Is he going to be good? Probably not. But if you would have held on to that, except for sending for scraps, you would have got almost a year and a half, 2 years of quarterback production. Not great. But again, if you're in a Superflex league, quarterback 24 is a startable asset at that point, right? So the go ahead and even like you could argue a quarterback 25 could outscore a wide receiver 3, right? Or something along those lines. So for me, like I'd rather just go ahead and hold on to him at that point and just see how it plays out.
That's why you take those Browns glasses off, Rich.
That'd be anything else.
How about you, G?
For me, it would truly be, how did I feel about them as prospects?
Yeah.
So if it's Gabriel, and it's a 4th to a 2nd, done. Like done and done.
I had a feeling you were going to be that person.
If it's Gabriel, Shedeur's a little bit more difficult. You use the 2nd round pick on him. That's roughly where he went. So early on, it might have been late or early 3rd, but for the most part, he's been going in the 2nd round now. So that's the hard part, is like I'm not gaining much at that point.
Right.
And since he's a quarterback, I'd rather just sit and hold, but it's because I liked his tape.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it would go, how do I feel about them as a player?
I mean, I actually didn't mind Gabriel's tape. I thought he was a guy that had some gamer to him, so to speak.
For sure.
And I mean,
he just reminds me of like Colt McCoy.
Yeah, the negative, he's 5'11", and doesn't have like the strongest arm ever.
Such a good comp.
But he can.
He's a winner.
He can go and
former 3rd round pick by the Cleveland Browns.
I think he can go and operate an offense right now.
Yeah.
I don't know that he could do everything. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one's difficult for me. Even I'm the one posing the question. But if it was truly a 4th round draft pick and a guy's offering me a 2nd, I'm going to do that.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the value.
I'm just going to take the value and move on, because in Rich's example of Aiden O'Connell, you could have a 2nd or you could have nothing. You know, 2 years from now. So I think I would rather take my chances that 3rd round pick is just going to be a kind of a backup bum.
And to be fair, I would have sold Aiden O'Connell for a second. Because I feel different about that. But at the same time, like I'm saying, if you did not sell him, like it wasn't like it
wasn't the end.
Still had an asset.
It wasn't the end of the world. Correct.
Same with like Davis Mills for a little bit. Same with like a lot of
Davis
those
Mills is
types
another
of
good
guys.
example. Got a full year. Yeah.
They're fine.
You're not getting much in return for them anyways, so you might as well hold on to them, because like if you need them.
A 2nd round draft pick though in Superflex,
that's definitely valuable.
It can be valuable because some guys get pushed.
But every once in a while they turn into Kirk Cousins or Jalen Hurts or Dak
100%.
Prescott. So that's where it's hard.
Yes, absolutely.
In that class, there's probably a 5%, 6% chance at best that I do get some value. Now, obviously, like for me, I feel like we studied the draft class hard enough where like I would find value that I'm excited about leaving the draft. But I think the numbers tell us, the whole cold hard facts are players that go in that range, about a 5% or
8%.
So
8%.
So for it's not exactly a 1-for-1 comparison, but I drafted Jordan Love his rookie season in the 2nd round in a Superflex league.
Yeah.
And I ended up trading him for a first-round draft pick shortly after. So I made that little quick return, right?
I did too.
And
I did the exact same thing.
And it doesn't feel great right now.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Because he turned out to be a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
So they can bite you in the butt. And it cannot feel good if that kind of turns into a quarterback that is good. So I get it both sides, but I probably would for a fourth to second.
Fourth to second for sure. Second to second. I'd rather just hold and just see what happens.
Yep. So that's it.
All right. Well, that's our quarterback ADP. Those are our sells. We obviously talked about some buys on the show too.
Went off the rails,
the value,
but we don't want to lie to you guys.
So we'll be back next week with more Dynasty Fantasy Football.
Adios.